I gotta tell you, you showed up. I woke up at 5 this morning, I go, no one's coming. It's like Saturday morning in Vegas, like who's gonna get out of bed and come see a little short guy? But you made it, so hey! First of all, I gotta tell you this. We gotta give a big round for AIME. These guys volunteer, they go out there, they bust their butt for who? You! You know, it was this very town that changed my life. I started off in mortgage, not because I had a choice, but because I was broke and I didn't have very many options. My friend called me one day and he goes, Chris, I know you don't got a job, you're looking for a job. I said, yeah, I'm laying sod for my father-in-law, which by the way is really hard work. You talk about, oh, this is hard, interest rates are hard. No, laying sod is hard. And he says, come in and talk to me. So he came in, I says, yeah, I think I could do it. It's because I didn't have a lot of options. I started off in mortgage, and about 45 days later, I remember going into his office and I said, is this legal? He goes, of course. I go, I freaking love it. Like, I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about mortgage. I go to lunch, I'm thinking about mortgage. I go home, I'm thinking about mortgage. I wake up again and want to wash and repeat. Like, I literally love it, but I gotta know one answer. He goes, what? How do you win? How do you become number one? He goes, it's real simple. And I lean in. And he says, picture yourself as Oscar the Grouch. And you're in your can. And you got a sign that says money for sale. And I waited. I'm like, yeah? He goes, no, that's it. I walk back to my office, I go, nah. But the truth is that there's a lot of us that think that that is the truth. We show up, we go to the office, we wait for our phone to ring, and then we'll go to work. And I quickly realized that if I was going to make a difference, I was going to have to be different. I was going to have to figure out how I'm going to integrate with realtors and understand what it looks like for them to win. Because if I could understand what it took to get a realtor to win, I'd win. There was a 60-year-old realtor that changed my life. Her name was Pat Clark. She says, Chris, I'll teach it to you. I'll teach you how to connect to your database. I know you don't got one yet. I'll teach you how to get leads from the different generations. She says, I'm on my third. I'll teach you how to work an open house. And I'll introduce you to every single realtor I know that could be a good fit. You see, I considered that day pretty lucky. Because I had a realtor that was willing to take a chance on me, that was willing to show me what it looked like to win. So I said I got in this mortgage business because I was broke. And it really hurt my confidence. And maybe today, right now, your confidence is shaken. And for the next 20 minutes, I want to help you with your confidence. You know, this town right here changed my life. I sat out there on a stage in the audience listening to this guy talk. And he had 3 things that really super attracted to me. Number 1, he says, if you're going to win again, you're going to have to get a vision. Number 2, you're going to have to get a plan. And number 3, it's got to be measurable. And I walked away from that summit, and I walked over to his booth, and I said, I need help. You see, I originated all this time. I got market share in our town, and everything was going good, but what was happening, and I didn't see it, and maybe you don't see it in your business, is I became status quo. I lost my fight. I lost my will to win. And I thought I should get out. You see, I had sold my brokerage company to a bank. I wasn't originating anymore. I was this fancy branch manager. I wasn't leading. I was looking forward to lunch. And if I was lucky, I stayed to 4:30. You see, I was lost. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know where I was going anymore. And I wasn't measuring a thing. And that day, in this very same town, I flew back. And I said, I'm going to do it different. And I hired that guy, and that guy changed my life. So I want you to get a piece of paper out. I want to talk about 3 things. If you don't got a piece of paper, I want you to get your phone out, because you're going to need it. I want you to understand what you're worth. 3 categories. 3 categories. I hate clickers. They're like, do you have a slide? I go, no, I don't have no slides, because I don't want to remember to click that thing. But listen, I want you to write down 3rd quarter. I want you to put down 2 things that you want to change. If we're going to grow, maybe we need to go back and review. And let me give you an example. I got a really good underwriting manager. I mean really good. Fights hard, take your call at 9 o'clock, figure out how to get a deal done. And I'm going through this with my staff, and I said, look, if we're going to grow, if we're going to be better, we got to go back and look at 3rd quarter, and we got to say, what can we do better? How can we interact better with our clients? How can we provide better service? What are we going to do to change? And at the end of every call, if you're a leader, if you're a manager, you've got to ask your staff after the meeting, you got to ask them one question: what's your biggest takeaway? This is how you understand, did they get it? Did they pay attention? And are they involved? And he goes, I have a big takeaway, but I'd like to share my story. You see, I'm a football coach. I'm coaching 5th grade. Our season's 5-5. I'm not feeling good. It's the last game. There's a minute left in the 4th quarter. I want to win this game. He says, I call a play, stupid play. Quarterback gets sacked. I call timeout, 45 seconds left. I bring in the huddle, and the kids could see my face. And that 5th grade boy goes, Coach, we need to concentrate on the next play, not the play that we just ran. You see, some of you in this room right now need you, as a 5th grader, needs to talk to yourself a little bit to remind yourself that we got to get ourselves to look more forward. But I want you to write one thing you want to do different, one thing that you could have done better for this next quarter. Because here's the trick. I'll give you, if you can take one thing from me, here's the trick. If you can gamify this business and you can gamify your activity, you will win. But you got to learn to gamify. Now that little boy told him that, and all of a sudden, he goes, I had a little pep in my step. I called the play. We got the touchdown. we won the game. The second thing I want you to understand is what your database is worth. If you're going to win in this market, I want you to understand, first of all, what that dollar amount is. So, in your piece of paper or on your phone, I want you to estimate how many people are in your database today. You got 1,000 people in your database? You got 500 people in your database? Like, how many people are in your database? Write it down right now. I'll play a little math with you. As you write this down, you think about this. Let's just say you got 1,000 people in your database. Here's the trick. They're going to make a difference. They're going to make a change every 7 years. 7 into 100 is 15%. So take your number times 15%. So if you had 1,000, that's 300. If you had 500, that's 150. Now, if you're good, you can convert 50%. So if you have 1,000 people in your database that every 7 years they make a change, it's 150, and you convert it, that's 75. If it was 500, round it to 38. Now I want you to write down that next number is what is your average commission? What is your average commission? Is it $4,000, $5,000, $3,000? Everybody's a little bit different. We all come from different markets. What is your average commission? Here's what I know when you get done with this math. If you got 1,000 people in your database, it's worth $300,000 a year. If you got 500 people in your database, it's worth $150,000 a year. Are you taking care of your database like you promised you would? You know, Todd Duncan said it really, probably the best. He's like, these are clients for life. Are you treating them like that? Look, you want a trick to get more realtor relationships? You've got to teach them how to win. By the way, it's the same math for a realtor. You call a realtor and you ask them, how's it going? The number one thing they're going to say, it's tough out there. And you say, yeah, I know it is. How you doing? And they say, well, I just need more leads. And you say, are you calling your database? No, I haven't been calling my database. Do you know what it's worth? Like, look, if you want to win in this market, you better help other people win. And the number one thing you can do is to call realtors and to get them to understand what their database is actually worth. Because, by the way, after you have that call, I already know the result. You're different. The second thing you need to be doing is that we need to be connecting to our database twice a year. That's your promise. You ask them 2 questions. How you doing? And then shut up, which is very hard for us, isn't it? Like, we like to talk. They will tell you. Look, I've been helping a lot of customers out there. Sometimes I got the student loan, maybe it's credit card, maybe it's additional debt. And the one thing that I want you to understand or get to figure out is to create the household APR. You do the math for them, you do the review. It's my promise to you to be a great mortgage advisor is to take care of you. And look, every deal that you close this year, that speech needs to happen when you close the loan. Look, you're super important to me. I'm going to be connecting and doing a review twice a year. And by the way, if you haven't visited the HomeBot booth and you're not using HomeBot, you're missing out. Number 1 open rate in video is HomeBot with us. I see Shields is supporting them. I don't know what they paid you to wear that, but I love it. The second trick that your database needs and that a realtor needs to understand is this. They need a letter of the heart once a quarter. Look, you heard the social media, the story of the dog peeing all down the side of him and how everybody has remembered that. Look, they want to know a peek of your life. They want to know something about you. Maybe it's something about your trip. Maybe something about your kids. Maybe it was the football game. Maybe it was the trip. That's not bragging. You're letting them in. You're telling them a story. Maybe it was a loss of a family member. And third, they need evidence of success. They need you to be able to give them something of a story of how you helped somebody and the joy. Maybe you helped a veteran. Maybe you helped somebody buy their first house and you got that call and you're like, thank you for helping me get into our very first home. You see, we were the first person, the first generation to ever even own a home. Because all of these things are doing one thing. I want you to remember this. You're programming. When you program a realtor, you teach a realtor how to win, they'll refer you. Calling the realtor and understanding is like, how's your family? How did you work? Did you play over the weekend? Those days are gone. You got to teach them how to win. And by the way, how many realtor relationships do you have today? Double it. Because that's what it's going to take. If you're going to grow in realtor relationships, you got to have a theme of how you're going to call. And I teach loan officers all the time they need to have 3 things in their pocket. Number 1, you got to have a theme. You got to have something that you talked about. Maybe it's something a little bit motivational. Number 2, you got to have a product. You've got to talk about a special product, something that you're excited about. Just pick a product. And number 3, you got to have that story. That evidence of success story. Oh my gosh, I helped this guy get pre-qualified. Nobody in town could get it done. I got it done. He got to bring in $5,000 less. Look, if you know anybody that needs a little bit of help, I want to help. Look, people relate by story. I hate to tell you this, but your database, your realtors, they don't remember everything that you say. I know we think they do, but they don't. Here's what they remember. They remember the way you make them feel. And look, many of you don't want to call these realtors because you've called and you've called and you've called. Let me give you a short script. You keep calling. You don't give up. And just when you think you're going to give up on that last call, you leave this voicemail. Hey, Tom, this is Chris. I'm over at Edge Mortgage. I've called you 15 times and left you a voicemail, and you still haven't called me back. But I'm going to tell you something. Wouldn't this be the type of lender you'd want to work with? That would have this extreme follow-up, that if I followed up with your clients like this, don't you think I could convert more? If you would just give me 5 minutes, I think I could teach you how to win. Like, we've got to be more impactful into this business. We've got to dig deeper and to be able to make more phone calls. We've got to connect to our database twice a year. And by the way, if you're going back and you're saying, I'm going to do something different for the fourth quarter, and I'm going to do better at connecting to my database, here's the trick. You call A's next week. The next week you call B's. The magical thing about that is that you get to talk to them twice a year. You're not selling. And that second question to ask that database, by the way, this is the same thing that you're going to teach your realtors, is tell me your real estate goals for the next 5 years. I'm telling you, there's so much joy in helping a customer dream. And maybe you get, are you thinking about a bigger house? Are you thinking about a smaller house? Are you thinking about a second home? Are you thinking about buying an investment property? Like, what does it look like for the next 5 years in real estate? And it changes the direction of that call. You're going to work these realtors. You're going to make a difference. You're going to have 3 topics when you call. And lastly, you got to have something to invite them to. You see, here's the trick. Many of you show up on Monday and you don't got a plan. You don't got a full calendar. And I know what happens to me when I don't have a full calendar. I get distracted. That's when the practical jokes come out. That's when I go golf. That's when I get distracted. So look, my trick is I put today's calendar, tomorrow's calendar on my desk every single day. When I walk in, it's on my desk. My goal is to fill next week's calendars by the calls that I make this week. This ain't rocket science. This is old school. And sometimes we got too fancy. Someone said, a speaker said, I think it may have been Todd, stop clicking. Sending links. We got to get in the weeds. So you either could do a happy hour, which I don't really like, and invite your partners to, and be a great connector. Or you can start to create small mastermind groups where you're taking 4 to 5, 6 realtors and you're covering a topic and you're doing 2 to 3 a month. Now look, you're bringing in an appraiser, you're bringing in a credit guy, you're bringing in an underwriter, you're bringing in another lender. You're like figuring out a way that you're the center of and controlling this mastermind. By the way, you're feeding them and you're helping them win. Like realtors want to learn how to win again. And I know many of you in this room, you are winners. And you've got to start to teach it. But don't be a hypocrite. Don't teach something that you won't do. And lastly, VIPs. Look, if you would concentrate on realtors, if you would concentrate on database, and then you would figure out 25 very important people into your market that you think would refer to you, you've got a plan. You've got a vision. And then the last piece, you've got to figure out a way to measure it. Look, you've got to come to an idea that you can think of, what am I going to do to win each day? What am I going to do to win each week? What am I going to do to win each month? Because I can't stand it when a loan officer gets to the end of the month and says, I didn't win. I'm like, yeah. Someone told me the other day, I love this guy, I hired this guy. I go, why'd you love him? He goes, because he looks at me and he goes, if I don't get an app a day, I am not successful. Like, what if we thought like that? Working great business people in your area will change your business. My number one referral is a car business. Going in and teaching home ownership and going in and willing to have pizza for lunch and being able to go old school and talking about home ownership will get you leads. Working open houses will get you leads. And those loan officers in this room that think working open houses is beneath them, you're confused. And lastly, on Fridays is my VIP call day. That's where I call the most important people in my life. And I let them know that. And I'm going to tell you, there's joy in giving back to realtors. There's joy in connecting to your database, which let's face it, right now sometimes I'm looking for some joy, and there's joy in those two things, but there's joy in being able to help small business. So everything that I just talked about right now is in this playbook. It's going to teach you how to run your week. It's going to teach you how to measure your leads. It's going to teach you how to measure your day. And I want to give it to you, but I'm going to give you something extra. If you come to my booth, I'm going to give you the realtor playbook. And then you can actually go out there and teach a realtor how to win. Because there's one thing I love watching. I love loans just like you. You know what I really love? I really love watching you win. Thanks for having me.